Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. Happy Black History Month. And we are making Black history together because thanks to you, the Stitch Better Have My Money fundraiser has hit 74% of our goal. That's $37,000 raised. I am beyond grateful for this community, but we are not done yet. We need $13,000 more dollars plus $5,000 for 2 more months of housing. At a time when Black history is being erased, investing in Black-led projects like Stitch Please is more important than ever. Let's stick the landing and finish strong. Donations are tax deductible through ActBlue. Visit our website and donate today, or click the link in the show notes and donate today. Either way, help us get our stitch together and cross the finish line. Thank you.
Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black lives matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together.
Hey friends, hey, it's Lisa from Black Women Stitch and the Stitch Please podcast. And as I say every week, this is a very special episode because in this episode, I am speaking with none other than Cookie Washington. If you do not know Cookie Washington, let me be the one to introduce you to this glorious creative who is an artist, a quilter, a meaning maker, and a culture keeper. If you don't believe me, you can turn to for her art advocacy in Charleston, South Carolina. She was named an actual heritage keeper. She was one of 44 master quilters chosen to create a quilt for Barack Obama in 2009. She was in the first cohorts of the Gantt Center for Art and Culture residency. She has Gullah rag rugs that are on display there. She has been in the Smithsonian African American Heritage Museum many times. She's going to be going there at the end of 2024. She's going back in 2025. And she's leading a quilt cruise in October of 2025. Plus, she has this new exciting project, Project 112, that's designed to build sustainability into our creative practices, as well as honoring the ancestors as she does so. I can also say that I had the great privilege of meeting Cookie Washington in real life back in 2023. This was in Durham, North Carolina, at the Convergence of African American Quilters that was hosted by Cookie's mentee, Kimberly Cartwright. Let me tell you, look, I'm gonna show you something now. Everybody calm down. Get ready to be excited. This is the piece that I made during her Cathedral Windows Quilt As You Go class. I attended that class. I was so excited. The quilt as you go method is something that I really enjoy, but I sometimes find a little confusing. And I was able to make this piece with the proper orientation for the print and everything, thanks to the expert instruction of Cookie Washington. So Cookie Washington, my former teacher in a great class that I took, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Stitch Please podcast. And thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for that great introduction. My goodness. Makes it sound like I'm a little bit important.
You are a lot of bit important, and you continue to be so. I mean, we are so fortunate to have you speaking with us today. Now, can you give us a little bit of your sewing story? You do so many different things. I think you're primarily known as a quilter. You've been featured in galleries all over the country and internationally. You've been in these top tier quilting magazines talking about the heritage of South Carolina. How did Cookie Washington, quilter, culture keeper, come to be?
I am very short and very round. I started I started sewing when I was 4. My granddaddy paid me 50 cents for my very first Barbie dress that I ever made.
Hey,
I know.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Listen, a lot of people are making Barbie dresses, and not very many people's grandfathers are paying for them. So that's a big deal. Tell us more about that. That's amazing. What do you remember? What it was? What was the piece?
It was made out of a old pink sheet that my grandmother helped me cut up, and just I love gathers and pleats, and so it was a big old puffy dress, and probably tore off a piece of my petticoat, which probably got me in trouble because ripping things up to make something new. But my grandmother, my great grandmother, um, my other great grandmother, all excellent, excellent master tailors and dressmakers. And so I had to learn. I'm very busty as well as being very short. And when I started getting really good, I was about 13. My mother said, "I'm never making you another stitch of clothing." And so from 13 on, I made all of my clothes because I'm 4'10", and I'm very fulsome in the top. And so
Hmm.
it was impossible to find clothes like that. So
Yes.
I just had to learn. And so I did that all the way through college. And, I was going to be a nurse. And then I realized I could not do neonatal nursing. So I went ahead and
Ah.
had my own babies and started my business so that I could feed my babies.
All right. All right. So I really love the independence and the trust that it seems that your family had in you. And they used that to kind of fortify your creative spirit. So here it is, you're making your very first Barbie dress, and your granddaddy says, you know what? That is so good. Let me buy that off you. I think that's worth some money. And 50 cents, I'm sure, felt really good at the time. And you could buy quite a few things at the little penny candy place if you have 50 cents. I mean, that's a lot. So that was really wonderful to think about. That as like you can earn money for your sewing. Like that's not something people learn right away. And then your mother just being like, look, you are very good at this. And so therefore I will not make you another stitch of clothes. Did it feel like an invitation when she told you that? Did it feel like affirming, or did you feel like, oh,
No, it felt very affirming. And blessedly, she sent me to a class in Arizona with the master pattern maker for Vogue Patterns at the time.
wow.
So I learned how to draft patterns very well, and I've been very blessed. I loved doing that, and
You did that at 13?
oh yeah,
You learned pattern drafting from the person that was drafting the patterns for Vogue Pattern.
yep. She was just getting ready to retire, and we were in New Mexico, and she was in Arizona, and we had friends in Arizona. So my mother was like, "Go visit them and take this," and it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. I still have those books that and I'm 60 now,
Wow.
plus.
That is beautiful. Do you remember, were you the only 13-year-old there?
Yep, I was the only 13-year-old there. It was like you breathe and walk across the room. I was born into a sewing family, so it was just
Yes.
like that's what you do.
Yes.
And my grandmother used to always say, "Idle hands are the devil's workshop," and I never would have idle hands. So I was, even talking on the phone, I'm always sitting there doing hand work or something, beading or whatever. I just have to do it. So
So it sounds like you're an omni sewist. It's someone you craft, you quilt, you make garments, you can pattern draft, you do all. It seems like you're doing like a lot of textile arts. So can you share with us a little bit about your philosophy about the differences? Do you see a difference between apparel making and what's required for that, and quilting or textile arts more generally? That seems a bit more free form. Like, a shirt's going to be a shirt, a blouse is going to be a blouse, but a quilt can kind of be anything. Have you noticed any kind of differences as you were developing your own practice about apparel versus other modes of creative work with textiles?
oh yeah, because I've always been a business person. You could come to me and say, I want a black evening dress with whatever. I have to do what you want to do.
Mm,
And when I'm quilting, I do take commissions, but I've decided when I first started doing art quilting that I really wanted to focus on black goddesses and queens,
yes.
because so many people believe or assume that the story of Black women started on a slave plantation somewhere in Mississippi.
Mm.
And we have been worshipped as goddesses and queens in the motherland for 4,000 years more. That's
Yes.
like really important for us to know. If you
Yes.
don't know where you've been, I really believe you don't know where you can go. Now,
Yes.
especially that I'm a grandmother, I really want my granddaughters to know that we have such a long, deep, important history.
Yes.
When I'm thinking about that, I love that. I have I kind of think of my quilting almost as kind of like a ministry, kind of like my lay ministry.
Say more about that. What is the message of Cookie's quilting ministry?
I believe you can teach people gently. Um, the majority of people in America are Christians, but if you can teach someone respectfully, Lisa, you don't have to have this religion, but let me explain to you what is beautiful about this religion and how it relates back to what our ancestors did. That's very
Hmm.
important to me. And like I said, one of my favorite stories, and I've made two quilts about her, and one just decided it's going to bubble up probably before the middle of next year. Um, the state of California was named for a Black Amazon goddess named Calipha. And
Oh,
almost nobody knows that I dated a guy who was a graduate in U.S. history with a focus on California history, and he did not even know that.
wow.
And when I first, well, I was very blessed when I lived in New Mexico. I was a little bit precocious, so I could take some classes at the university even when I was still in high school. And one of the professors there walked up to me one day and handed me this book. I was like 15 years old. And he said, "Here, you might want this book." And it was the story of Calipha, which I had never heard
Oh,
before. And I loved it. And, through many years, I lost the book. And when I got my first computer back, I was like, I'm going to find her. And at that time, there were only two depictions of her in the state of California that I could find. One of
wow.
them was at the Mark Hopkins Hotel on Nob Hill. There's a beautiful mural. If you ever get there, please go look at it. It's the history of California, and she is painted in the first two panels. She was an Amazon goddess, and she lived amongst the other Amazons. And the story, which let me say, this story was first written down in Portuguese in like 1500.
Wow.
And this story was so believed and so well known that when Cortez came to the state of California, he said, "Today we have arrived in Calipha's land." And he wrote that in the ship's log.
Wow.
And so I love the story of her. And like I said, I've made two quilts about her. And like I said, I'm thinking about it as another one is coming. Because it's so important. I mean, it's like, it's so important for people to know.
Y- yes.
Just like knowing about the Black Madonna, because most people
Yes.
don't, or if they know, they're like, oh, well, their faces got black because of the soot from whatever. But
Right.
how can the soot be on your face, but still not on that beautiful blue or emerald robes? Like, no, let's just tell the truth. And it helped me better my faith because learning about the oldest Christian church in the world is the Ethiopian Coptic Church. And so it's
Oh.
like, okay, so we have a deep history with Christianity as well, the same kind
Mm.
of Christianity that we're selling in America today. Um, Respectfully, so I just want to learn everything. I love to learn about Islam and Hinduism and
Yes.
just learning about the cities in India. Black
Mm.
people in India, this is so great. And so you also want to touch those textiles because that is still part of our ancestor and our history.
Yes.
And any excuse to buy new fabric.
Hey, friends. Hey, I know you're enjoying the audio version of Stitch Please, and thanks so much for listening. But you're missing out on all the great stuff going on behind the scenes. That's why I'm inviting you to join our Black Women Stitch Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can see all the video versions of the podcast. Plus, you get some amazing swatch cards. You know how much I love these swatch cards. Look, see how cool these are? Oh wait, you can't You can't see them because you are not yet on the Patreon. So when you join the Patreon, you'll be able to see this, me showing you these amazing cards. We also have some great perks at the other tiers, like discounts, swag, office hours, and more. Don't be the last sew us in the group now. Head over to patreon.com/blackwomenstitch or click the link in the show notes and become a Patreon supporter today. We truly cannot do this without you. So thank you so much. I was just learning from, I think it's Jonathan Michael Square, who is working with the Victoria and Albert Museum, talking about madras and how madras is a textile that has, that has African roots. And, I grew up seeing madras like everywhere and had no idea that it was connected to us in this way. So, we really never stop learning. And one of the things I appreciate about your creativity, Cookie, is that it seems fed by curiosity. It feels like, you're curious about one thing. And then once you do that, the world kind of opens up to you differently. One of the things I love about curiosity is that I think that fear and curiosity cannot coexist.
Oh, what a good statement. I'm going to write that down. I love that.
And I say that as someone who, does a lot of, of research, but also as someone who, one of the things when I start to get nervous about something or I start to worry, I do my best to shift that gear into curiosity. Forget about the fear, forget about what could go wrong. Instead, just ask questions, go read, go put your hands on something, ask other people. That to me really helps. And that's something that I think that is very apparent in your work. Didn't you do an exhibition about Black mermaids?
I've done 2 exhibitions about Black mermaids.
Talk about why Black mermaids are important to know about and to create about.
Now, you said this podcast was only 30 minutes.
I know. I have a feeling we might be doing a double, so let's keep going.
I discovered Black mermaids when I was researching Black Madonnas, which was, I'm not Catholic, but I believe I have a very rich prayer life. Lord, and I journal as I'm praying. So
nice.
What should I make quilts about? At that time, everybody's making like puppy quilts, and I love puppies, but I'm not wasting my time. I got to take care of my dog. So
puppies are not for you.
No, not for quilting for me. Not
okay
for me. So I was praying, and all of a sudden I heard God say Madonna, and I thought the singer, and I'm like, no, that's not right. And then I was looking through a book, and it says something about Black Madonna, which I had never heard of before, and I was like, what? Because I'm a Baptist, and we talk about the Madonna like for 30 seconds during the Christmas pageant. And then if you have a big Easter pageant, then you get the part where Jesus says, take my mother Mary home. And those are our exposures to the Madonna. That's it. So I didn't know anything about the Black Madonna. And I should have been a historian. I love doing deep dive into research. And as I'm researching about Black Madonnas and Pope John Paul, his favorite Madonna was the Our Lady of, really long name in Poland. And that was the quilt, the picture that was hung over his coffin in the Vatican.
Oh, wow.
And the thing that I love about that is, when he died, it was like world news. There's 2 pictures. One of them was taken by an AP reporter, and the other one was taken by a reporter in America. And they're both the same pictures. There you see his coffin sitting there. And in the picture that was in every other newspaper in the world, you clearly see the picture of the Black Madonna hanging over his coffin.
Wow.
And in the American picture, it's all blurred out. You can kind of, if you know what you're looking for, you know what it is. And so that's
wow.
We have to be responsible for unleashing our own history and teaching our own history. And how much more pride can you have than to say, I might be a descendant of the mother of Christ.
Wow.
And so like I said, that led me into Black mermaids, because in the Catholic Church, there's somebody called Stella Maris, who was actually Yemaya.
Oh my.
These legends got cleaned up or bastardized in different religions, so that they took the ownership away from us. And
Mm.
so we don't know a lot of scholarship, but there are a giant pantheon of Black mermaids. When I had my both of my shows, I had them at the City Gallery in Charleston, South Carolina, and the City
Wonderful.
Gallery overlooks Charleston Harbor. So where else could Black mermaids swim into?
Oh.
And it's the gallery is about a mile away from the place where 60%, they say 40 to 60% of slaves came into America. And
Hmm.
you have to remember that we were not born slaves. We were
Right.
dressmakers and teachers and
Yes.
linguists and fine
Yes.
craftsmen and artisans. And so that and there are different, just as the Catholic Church has different saints, if you want to find your keys, you pray to Saint Anthony, or if you want,
That's right.
we have the same pantheon of goddesses and gods, and we don't know
Hmm.
that. And so many people, I had a discussion, like a rather heated discussion about this the other day. Egypt is in Africa, so we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about Isis and Horus, and those people do not have blue eyes.
Mm.
And so we need to re-embrace that too, and
Yes.
stop letting other cultures take away our stories.
That's beautiful, and I'm glad that you mentioned ISIS, because when you were talking about Khalifa for California, I was thinking about Paris, because Paris is a city that I learned from Ricky Stevenson's Black Paris tour was named for the goddess Isis. You
Mhm.
know, Par Isis, and that's how you get Paris. And so it's really amazing that what feels like a concerted effort of anti-Blackness, which is exactly what happened when that American reporter felt the need to de-blacken that Madonna, because we can't, of course, have the millions of American Catholics notice that their religious supreme leader's favorite symbol was of a Black woman, because that means that we'd have to do things quite differently. And so you say you wish you were a historian, and I'm just going to say I think you are already. I think you are doing that work, and it shows up in your interviews, it shows up in the pieces you create, it shows up in the descriptions that you write and have of your work. Can you talk a bit about your involvement with the National Museum of African American Culture on the Smithsonian, that museum, and the work that you have done with them? Because again, you say, "Oh, I wish I was a historian. I would have been." I think you are doing it. Not everybody gets to just have work up in that museum. So I'd love to hear more about the work that you have coming up at the end of 2024, as well as again in 2025.
Well, I'm teaching a class in November. We don't have the date set, but it's probably going to be Thanksgiving week or the last week in November, because I've got some other things.
Mm,
November is National Recycling Week, so I will be teaching my rag project there. I will also be back there for March for International
yes.
Quilting Month. Yay! Which is also
Yes.
International Crocheting Month. So there you go.
Right.
So two things that I'm doing. And it was I have no idea how they found, well, I probably do know how they found me. I have been creating an African American fiber art show is for the city of North Charleston for the last 18 years. And so my
Wow.
name is all over that.
Yes.
This last show in this May was celebrating Black music, and was so fabulous.
Oh my
It's been
gosh.
traveling now for a year, as all my shows now travel. And the show coming up and the call for entry will be out very soon. I'll send you the link. Um,
Thank you.
is honoring and celebrating our ancestors from Africa to now, and you can choose to celebrate a little known person from history, or you can celebrate one of your own personal ancestors. So
Wow.
it'll be I think it'll be a very exciting exhibit. That show always is in May. For the first time, we will be having a quilt retreat right afterward on St. Helena Island at the historic Penn Center. Come on down. Hopefully, school will be over for you then, or you can just
Yes.
play.
Oh my goodness. This sounds incredible. And we'll make sure to have this information so we can have it in the show notes so folks can refer to it. I really appreciate the work that you do in all the ways that it kind of acknowledges, celebrates, and recognizes Black culture, Black women, Black heritage. And you see it in such a diverse and beautiful way. And I would love to hear more about your project 112. And because it feels like it's a combination of an apparel project, but also a textile project. Tell us a little bit more about Project 112 and how we can kind of learn more and get behind it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this is my new passion. I was doing research after my mom and my brother passed away about, how to preserve their clothing and stuff. And my mother was a little teeny woman. She was like a size 8, and I'm like a size 20. So but when she died, and she did not want a traditional funeral, so we just had all the cousins came in and everything, and we just had a big old party and told wonderful stories, and people were like, "Oh, I miss Aunt Marty," and she was not a person who liked to take a lot of pictures, so I don't have one.
Mm.
But then I saw an article about rag crochet, and I was like, let me do this. And so I made a basket from the last blouse that I had made for her. And my younger daughter said, "Oh, this must be my basket." And I thought, okay, so now I have to make one for everybody in his family, because I have 3 children, and you cannot let one have something that the other 2 don't have.
Of course not. I am the oldest of 3 children, and that 3 girls, and that is the law. How you cannot give one person a thing.
Yeah, so
That's just inviting chaos.
yeah, so everybody's getting a basket, as well as the cousins that we're very close to, and I'm crocheting or rugging a rug that both of my mother and my brother got cremated, and my friend is making their urns, and I'm weaving a rug out of both of their clothes combined that the urns will rest on.
Oh.
So, it's very special and meaningful for me. And so as I was doing that, I was thinking, gosh, because it takes a lot of fabric.
You've been listening to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you joining us this week and every week for stories that center Black women, girls, and femmes in sewing. We invite you to join the Black Women Stitch Patreon community with giving levels beginning at $5 a month. Your contributions help us bring the Stitch Please podcast to you every week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.